Supreme Court has delivered a pivotal ruling in the case of the Enbridge Line 5 oil pipeline. The High Court says a 2019 lawsuit to stop operation of the oil pipeline through the Straits of Mackinac will be handled in state courts.
That decision comes after Canadian company Enbridge Energy tried to move the dispute with Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel to a federal court. News 10's Riley Connell in studio now to tell us what's next.
Yeah, Ann and David, Supreme Court justices are handing this case back to the state courts, primarily because Enbridge missed the deadline to move it into the federal court. Enbridge responded to the decision today, saying the company is committed to the safe operation of Line 5 and to working with regulators and stakeholders. The legal battle with Attorney General Nessel began over safety concerns. Nessel, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and several environmental groups cite possible impact on wetlands and waterways as a key reason to shut down the line and revoke Enbridge's easement, which allows them to operate the U.S. portion of the line. Flow water advocates released a statement celebrating the Supreme Court decision, saying they're confident that when it's time for trial, Attorney General Nessel will successfully argue Michigan's legal authority to stop the Line 5 project and prevent a pipeline oil spill. Environmental advocates say they are eager to see this case play out after years of delay. Back to you, Ann.
Thank you. Several other legal disputes surrounding the Line 5 project are waiting for resolution. Governor Whitmer is in the process of appealing a federal court ruling blocking her from ending the legal agreement that allows Line 5 to operate in the Straits of Mackinac.